So good day everyone, my name's Jamie from the Old Creamery in North East Victoria. So I've finally put together this video for you which talks about Miss Moo Moo, who is here at the moment picking on some feed, which is a good sign to see. And I guess our journey with her through her first calf. So we've had Miss Moo Moo, so she's 4-year-old now, and we've had her since she was a couple of days old, and she was one of those cows we got given that probably wasn't going to live. And we nursed her through, and 4 years later, after working on a couple of dairy farms myself, decided let's give it a go and have the house cow, which you always hear about. So I guess we're just documenting a bit of the journey we've been on her, because I don't know if it went normal or not. There was a few hiccups along the way, and being the over anxious mother I became, she seemed to take things in her stride. But I just thought this video might help you or educate you on things I was looking at while we were going through, especially with the older cow. A lot of the advice we were getting from, I guess, dairy farmers around was based on 18-month-old, 2-year-old heifers, not the older cow as such. But mum and baby are all doing well. Here's little baby at the fence, little Declan. So Declan is a Jersey cross Dexter. So, and he's 14 days old here. But he's happy exploring the world, and Mummy's doing beautifully in the dairy. And here's Miss Moo Moo having a good feed as she just come out of the dairy. So this isn't her usual paddock. We just have a bit of a waste area pretty much from our very old dairy where she comes out, and she likes to pick through some of the ryegrass we have planted here before she goes back to the paddock onto the good feed. And here we can see Mr. Declan is meeting a chicken. So I guess on this video it's just about giving some information about our experiences. Obviously there's lots of different advice and knowledge out there, and I don't want to replace what other people might tell you, but it's just an indication of what we went through, what we were seeing at various stages of pre-calving, and hopefully it helps. Any questions, drop them in the comments, and have a great day. So we had Miss Moo Moo artificially inseminated. So this is a photo of her probably about 6 months out from calving. She's still got that nice coming into spring winter coat on, and around this time was when we saw her first spring, as you can see there. So that was the first sign to us, apart from the preg test we had done previously. So we knew she was already in calf, but this was the first visual sign, I guess, that she was on the way. And then we, as you see, it soon vanished, and then came back shortly before she was due to calf again. And this is typically what they call the first spring. So we were watching this over a space for a couple of weeks, and her udder would fill and go back down, so swelling would occur. And that was a sure sign to us that things were definitely on the way. So it was about this time when we started training Miss Moo Moo on how she needed to be a dairy cow. So that started off with the halter training, so putting the halter on her, getting her used to having the lead rope, being walked around with me in front, so that she associated me with being top dog as such, or top cow. And we did that over the space of the last 3 to 4 months of her pregnancy. We took her up to the dairy every day. She only ever got grain while she was in the dairy. I bought my milking machine at this point, so I used to run that while she was in the dairy, just so she got used and desensitized to the noise around, and just so she was, I guess, accustomed to what was going to be expected of her post-calving. And I think that really helped with us, especially being the one cow family, where there isn't others to show them the ropes, and instills that you're top dog around the place.
Hey!
This is probably about 2 weeks out from calving, so the final spring's starting to happen, and as you can see we've definitely got milk on board, and her vulva was starting to swell and show that sign of preparing for the birth. So I guess this is when we started to see the behavioural changes. As you can see here, just laying around all day, looking quite uncomfortable and a bit bloated. And the licking was an interesting thing for us. From when I was looking online, it was associated with form of pain. But now we started to see that she was starting to lick in preparation of the calf coming. So she was out with the pigs for a couple of days, and her and the pigs started to lick each other, and it was quite cute watching it. Obviously things are getting quite swollen here, and we're seeing at the back end that she's fully springed up. The bit of a wobble is starting to happen, which is quite normal in those couple of days before they're expecting to calve. So you'll see that as she waddles around, and obviously carrying quite a bit of milk in preparation for the calf. And you can see there's no sign of any wrinkles. It's quite shiny, which is cleaning up in preparation for the birth. And typically from everything we're reading online around this time seemed to show to us that we were on the way and things should be happening momentarily. Unfortunately, they didn't. And a week out from calving, we were seeing this kind of behaviour in the paddock, which we were sure was contractions, and the videos kind of cut it off, but the tail is definitely to the side, it's kinked. But lo and behold, we still had no calf, and this behaviour continued. In the morning, as you'll see in the next picture, we started to see the vulva getting swollen and then shrinking back and then swelling again, which for us at that point was a bit nerve-wracking. We kind of expected when things started they would just keep going, not going backwards as such. And as you can see here, this is the visual we were seeing. So this was actually in the space of less than 12 hours. So we started with the really big, very swollen spring, and then we were shrinking back to nothing over this by the same night, which is then we started getting concerned, like, what the hell's happening here? So this is when we had the vet out again, and we had her internally examine it, and we just made sure that the calf was there, which was the head and the feet were able to be palpitated, if that's the right word, but everything looked like it was in position. We had milk starting to develop, so we knew things shouldn't be too far away. At this point we were already well and truly over the due date. So despite all the signals, in the video here we're still 4 days away from when she eventually calved. You can see she's a sizable unit, and just carrying so much milk. She's still got a good appetite at this point, but it's few and far between, with lots of rest breaks and sleeping around, which you can't blame her for, I suppose. But the size of the udder was a bit of a concern to us, obviously swelling with the edema as well, and just nothing happening given those early signs of contractions we were seeing. We were told to keep looking for the loosening of the ligaments along the back here, and we didn't really see them happening even when she calved. There was a bit of more of a hunch, I guess, occurred, and you saw the back end drop slightly. But given that she was a bit older and fatter, sorry Miss Moo Moo, it can be harder to see those ligaments, we were told as well. So I know when I've looked at lots of videos online, I couldn't find anything that actually showed you what that really looked like. And I was hoping to be able to capture it ourselves, but we weren't able to. Now this is the type of behaviour we started observing her doing, which to me looked like obvious signs of distress. She's pretty much standing against a wire fence there, rubbing her vulva constantly, and the swinging of the head. That's whether it was pain or uncomfortable, we weren't sure, but after another day of this happening is when we called the vet out. And while he was actually in the dairy with her, the amount of milk she was leaking, like it wasn't drips, it was streams. And it was at this time, based on the behaviour, here you go again, you can see the uncomfortable and the constant kind of moving to and fro. That's when the vet decided that it was best to induce her and actually start milking her. So we milked her for nearly 3 days before, prior to the calf arriving, and we're not sure whether the calf arrived because of the inducing or just through natural progression of the pregnancy. But she was so uncomfortable and just not her usual self at this point, that we were happy that the vet had chosen to intervene at that stage. So this was the first sign of any discharge occurring, which was a positive sign. There you go, that obsessive licking we were seeing constantly. And just level of uncomfortability, and you can see she's starting to kick there at the udder, but this is still 3 days before she actually decided to calve. So all of those signs we were seeing indicating that pre-labour was happening and taking for longer and longer and longer, and you can see there she was spaced out in the paddock, which was concerning as well. And then you can see finally, this was a whole week after we had those first initial, like what we call contractions or signs of straining, we had to have a calf. And whilst they tell you this can go on for a couple of hours, I can tell you that this whole, from the start of seeing that discharge to having this calf up and running and standing on its feet, was in less than 20 minutes. And unfortunately, after all of the being by her side the whole time, this was the one time I wasn't around and I missed the actual calving. So I was heartbroken, as you can imagine. But the main thing was, Mum is happy there. She's been a good mum, and calf was up and standing on its feet within a couple of minutes of giving birth. At this point, obviously, because we started milking Mum, we hand-fed baby to make sure he got colostrum. We've been keeping the colostrum after we've been milking Mum, so freezing that. So he got his full we got 3 feeds over the next day and a half. And this next little video is the first time Mum went into the dairy as a cow. And as you can hear, we're very happy that Declan the Dexter was very full of beans, lots of energetic, day old here, and there he's chasing around the paddock and exploring the new world. And Mum being a great mum, making sure he's nice and close, letting him feed, which is also amazing. Just taking the whole thing in her stride. Unfortunately, this is the time when she crashed. So I guess with the first signs of ketosis, what we noticed with her was signs of pain. So she looked like she was straining again. Turning her head, standing to one side. In the dairy, her milk production went down. She didn't want to go to the dairy, which was the first time we had experienced that. And you could definitely see that she was looking hollow and not eating. Water and drink intake was down, which led us to obviously look online and source things out. Speak to our local farmers. They're a great knowledge of advice for you, and that's when we already knew she was going to be predisposed to potentially crashing and going through what they call ketosis, which is, from a very vague understanding, is once they calve, their body obviously starts producing milk, they're feeding the calf, and the hormone or the brain doesn't kick in that they actually need to eat more to get the nutrients they need for all of everything which is going outwards. So a bit like when people go on the keto diet, the body starts changing from living off carbs and starts consuming body fat to survive. And you can pick that up through the urine samples with the ketones or the acetone coming through the system. Unfortunately for cows, that's obviously not how they're bred and need to be to have a healthy diet. And it's just one of those things, particularly in heifers and cows who maybe have a good body condition, can experience. Typically only lasts a couple of days, providing that you treat for it. In Miss Moo Moo's case, she's hiding around the corner. She's been camera shy. It's taken a bit longer to get her through the other side of it, but I'm happy to say over the last 24 hours something's kicked in and now she's ravenous. I think to help with that we've been drenching, so we've drenched her for about 5 days now, morning and night where possible, with a drench you can get from the local ag store, which pretty much has a lot of glucose and that extra sugar, proteins in there and minerals. We've given some minerals vaccines as well. And here's a big bale of lucerne behind me, but she didn't even like the lucerne. It's funny, this came from next door where she was on adjustment, so it's probably its 3rd or 4th cut. Isn't really interested in this one, but the lucerne I get for the baby calves comes in square bales, so she's now decided that is the best thing in the world. So either way, we're very happy that she's eating and she seems to be back on the mend. Hey, Miss Moo. She's just like, why are you in my paddock with a camera? And here's my little helper in the dairy. So he usually comes down the pit for a couple of minutes and has a sniff around. So I thought So I thought I'd show you some of our setup. So we were very lucky when we bought our house to get a disused dairy. So our long-term plan is that we'd love to turn this into a functional space, something like a restaurant or something like that. But that's a few years down the track. I love this. You can see it. Comes, I don't know how many years old it is, but obviously it has all the cow numbers, the dates some of them unfortunately passed away, how many times they've been milked, or the lactations, I'm guessing from the numbers on the side. But it's a lovely piece of history, and I hope to get that framed one day and keep it, should we turn this into something. But we set up the dairy. It was pretty much just rustic when we had Miss Moo Moo, and we knew she was going to come calve, so we've repositioned some railings around the place, as you can see, to make a bit of a crash for her. This was a really good idea, having this back base. So she does, when she was younger and she was trying to figure everything out, we didn't want her falling down in the pit, and it gives her a bit of a guide to go in. Obviously those who work in dairies know that there's always a lead cow and someone to show them how the ropes work, especially for young heifers. But obviously Miss Moo Moo being here on her own, I have to be lead cow. And we've got a very rustic feed tray for her, but she can come in, put her head through. I have a bit of a gate you can slide behind her, and then chain to hold her in place too. And that works really well in milking, and she's learnt the process quite well and is a beautiful cow to milk in the dairy. From Gumtree, we were very lucky and got ourselves a very single old-fashioned portable milker. Does the jobs. I'm in the process of having to replace some of the inflations and tubing, but that cost me 400 Australian dollars. So a well worth invested piece of equipment. I know you can buy them for a lot more than that, but try and get one if you don't want to hand milk. Other things I've got in here is obviously fresh clean buckets, so I can churn through what milk we get, and between what goes in the fridge and comes to the house, and what gets left over goes to the animals on the farm. I keep washing up liquid, an antibacterial one, so I'd like to run that through the machine after milking on cold water wash, and then I use a hot water wash rinse to finish. I keep my iodine spray, very expensive if you're doing it for one cow, but that was the best I could get. I think about $15 down at the local ag store. I'm just looking at Miss Moo Moo because she's found a new loosener I brought home and put in the shed, and she's honing into it, so that's good. That's a good sign. Vaseline, so I like to use Vaseline to keep her teats nice and soft. I was using more of the iodine after milking, but I find with calf goes and sucks it all off anyway, so at least the Vaseline has a bit longer between when calf goes back and has his feed. And I also keep moisturising the dairy, because obviously with the edema after she calved, I like to keep things nice and moist for the skin moist and saddle, so we can get things going back into shape. Another good little tool I bought was some keto sticks. So I don't know, we'll talk a bit more about that, because unfortunately Miss Moo Moo went through a period of ketosis after she calved, and these are a good indicator of how your cow is going after calving. So we noticed behavioural changes with her, and a reduction in milk, and she didn't want to eat or drink, so it was a bit of a nerve-wracking couple of days. We're on the mend now, which is fantastic, so these are a really good investment. I've got a couple of sticks I'll show you, just for people who don't know how to use them. I find the best way is if you tickle her just underneath her vulva area, for better terminology. When you tickle her, she will start to wee. So then you can just stick your stick in and get a bit of a test. Obviously, it's a bit easier with some animals trying to take a urine stick. This is one I just got this morning. And as you can see, we've got that nice sandy colour, which means there's nothing in there, which is fantastic. 2 days ago, you'll see the difference. We were getting this very purpley, vibrant orange, which means she was still in that ketosis stage, and we were still having a few concerns with her, how she was travelling. So that's 2 days old, so it will look slightly different when you see it on your keto sticks, but I thought I'd show you anyway. And you'll see on the stick you get that kind of purple. We were heading right into that very dark purple, whereas now we're down on this far left side, which is where you want to be. Hope that's kind of helped. Have you got any questions about how I operate my little 1 cow dairy? I'm more than happy to answer them. So I hope that video has been helpful to some of you. As I said, I'm always happy to answer any questions the best I can, just from our experience. But the best things I can give you is train early. Try and desensitize your heifer or your cow into how you're going to be operating, I guess, after calving. I think that's really helped for us. And We don't go, especially at work. I know when the heifers first come in, there's a lot of kicking can go on, and you want a really safe environment, particularly when you haven't got the setup which a commercial dairy would have. We don't have a head bale, we haven't got those kind of tools, I guess, disposable. So we try to make things as smooth and easy as we could for us, as well as for her. And I think that's paid off. Having really good friends around. I'm going to say a big shout out to my friend Sharon. Sharon works as the artificial inseminator. As she said, it's her job to put them in there, not take them out. But we've had many phone calls and posts and other shots going backward and forward at 3 o'clock in the morning. She was amazing and wonderful for us to have as that resource. And just your local dairy farmers, like, they'll give you the best advice and knowledge of what's going on. Obviously, might see things from a different perspective, given they're commercial and we're dealing with one cow and it's a pet at the end of the day. But really good source of information. And if you need any vaccines or any drugs and things like that, go have a chat to them, take them around a coffee, a cake, have a chat to them. I'm sure they'll be willing to help you if you need it. Happy milking, happy homesteading, and stay tuned for some more videos, maybe, if that's what people want, and we'll show you what we do with some of the milk we get. Have a great day.